All right, what's going on, guys? Episode 8. We are back. I got the numbers right on this one. So yeah, episode 8. We're back here with Jamie Bell. This week's episode is going to be pretty fire. Actually, we go over a lot of the updates with what's going on in the market right now, with in terms of with the crypto market, a little bit of that, kind of the bigger do we want to call it bigger meme industries, go a little bit more into cannabis. So we talk about government regulation, things like that. Here on the pod, we don't get too into politics, just how it affects the market. So don't be too worried about that. If you're worried about hearing anything political, you're not going to get that here from us. So overall today, you're going to get something along the lines of a market update, cannabis, gaming, as well as another big one is the sports betting industry as well. So you got a mix of those with us, as well as some of the upcoming information from the Coinbase IPO, as well as a little bit of a glimpse into possible next week's episode into what's happening with the SPACs currently going on, which are going up in flames. So stay tuned for that next week. But I hope you guys enjoyed this week. It's always fun putting out content for you guys. I know Jamie and I are loving what's going on here, so we're constantly striving to improve on that. And anything you guys have for us, and comment below, questions, anything, shoot us DMs. Always open for suggestions, criticism, anything, man. So if you have new content ideas for us that you guys want to see from us, go ahead and shoot it to us. We're open to recording and trying something new there for you guys. So without further ado, this episode 8, again, talking about cannabis, gaming, sports betting, all the good stuff in there. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon. Happy investing. All right, guys, we're back with Jamie Bell.
What's
we're taking
good,
a kind of a little more broad overview of the market to start us off here. I know that Jamie Bell has been itching to get some things off his chest here, so I'll let him take this away. How you doing, my man?
Yeah, how's it going, man? Over the last few episodes here, we've been doing a deep dive into different asset classes, but we thought it would be a good idea to kind of take a look at the broad market in general. Get back to some equities here, and where things are trading, and then we could kind of talk about some current events that are happening, like the Coinbase listing and some of these hot button topics that you probably all want to hear about. But I mean, Emmett, since I was on for my first time, I think that was episode 4 of your podcast. I mean, S&P 500 was about, let's call it 3,800, and today, right now, we're talking, April 15th, Thursday. Sorry. I mean, holy smokes, S&P 4163 here, NASDAQ 14K, Dow Jones a hair under 34,000. I mean, oh my gosh. What's going on here, man?
Like you said, man,
what do you
the
think?
market's absolutely ripping, dude. I think you had another point. Go ahead to what you were saying about those election numbers. Those were kind of blowing my mind here.
Since the presidential election, which, I mean, let's call it whatever, what is it, November 2nd, November 3rd, the S&P 500 is up 30% since the election. I mean, what is
absolutely mind-blowing?
I can't believe it, honestly. That, I mean, I'm not going to go into the election at all, but I mean, this was one that was obviously slightly controversial, and there was a lot of reasons to be kind of scared around capital markets and just business in America in general. But the market doesn't care, and I guess business kind of just goes on normally as planned. But I mean, what we've seen, even when Trump was elected in 2016, the market is just, and what I think right now, I mean, the market's just like kind of fallen in love with this new administration a bit. I mean, obviously it's up 30% since the beginning in November when the new administration was elected. And we kind of saw the same thing in late 2016 and all of 2017, where the market really also fell in love with the Trump administration. 2017 was a great year for equities. I think it was almost a 30% year. And kind of the backdrop was the market was really kind of getting used to the Trump presidency. And maybe you could say the same thing here, but 30% since the election seems a little bit much. I mean, holy smokes. And a lot of that probably has to do with this vaccine rollout as well.
Yeah, of course.
But I mean, man, it's crazy because I mean, I'm of the notion that I don't even know if a full vaccination is good for the market, but that's kind of a contrarian take, kind of in the back of the back of my mind. I'm going to be honest, but because I still just think once you kind of figure out COVID, other things are going to start to be attacked by this administration, taxes, regulations, things of that nature. But the market doesn't care because
that's kind of a good point. I didn't think about that as much as of late, like you said, because everyone's so wrapped up in what's happening with COVID, and kind of things are, the
I mean,
government's kind of still, they're just juggling so many balls
this
right now.
the
But once they
the
get the chance to focus in on the other issues, we might see a bit of a change in the market.
I mean, put yourself right here in this position next year in 2022. I mean, I'm assuming that things are going to be a lot more normal, if not fully normal. And I mean, what a lot of the priorities that this administration set out to do are going to be worked on, you know? And that's why my first episode that you had me on here, Emmett, what did I talk about for and scream about for 20 minutes? It was the cannabis industry. Um, I the cannabis industry, in my opinion, looks like a pretty safe place to be over the next year and a half, because we're gonna see a lot of legislation kind of go their way, in my opinion, especially once kind of COVID is taken care of. So there's not a lot of things as far as cannabis legislation going on the federal side, because like I've said over and over, really the focus right now is COVID and this vaccine rollout. But that's one thing you should look at too, if any of you are involved in cannabis right now and you're kind of wondering, hey, you know, what's going on, right? There hasn't been, other than more states coming online for recreational medical cannabis like Virginia and Missouri, and obviously Arizona here, there really isn't much happening on the federal side. I think that's going to take some time to later this year. So the quicker we can kind of get over this virus, I think the quicker that the cannabis industry can start to see some legislation go their way on the federal side. On the state side, I mean, it's crazy. You have states want to go online and start to get involved with the cannabis business. Early indications in Missouri are really good, and that's a state that people didn't realize has medical cannabis right now. So
That's again,
you're
that's
seeing
someone
red
who's not
states.
into,
Yep.
someone who's not into cannabis full time. Those are, hearing Missouri is one of those, like, kind of piques your
Yeah,
interest a
and
bit. They
yeah,
didn't think it would
exactly.
get there.
And the thought process with Missouri was, and like many other states in the Midwest, and pretty much, I mean, states everywhere in the country have an extremely horrible meth and opioid issue. I mean, that's almost like a pandemic in and of itself. I mean, I would make the argument that right now today, I mean, the meth and opioid epidemic is probably the scariest one in my opinion right now.
Yeah,
And
I wouldn't even think it's. I'll be the one to take the stand and say it's not even close when it comes to numbers to
yeah,
the COVID,
exactly.
the pandemic, and all that stuff. It's the opioid epidemic has been destroying those numbers. They've been blowing them out of the water for
Exactly.
years now.
Exactly. So Missouri kind of went out of their comfort zone. And you're seeing a lot of red states kind of going out of their own comfort zone. And you know, getting involved in an area that has historically been more of a blue issue, right? And ironically enough, the red states are the best investment opportunities for cannabis, because what we've seen in blue states like California and Washington State, where Seattle is located, in Oregon, cannabis has not been a good investment there, just because the regulations are really tough. I know here in California, it is horrible as an investor in cannabis. It has not been good. Places like Florida and Nevada have been much better. So that's kind of an interesting, another interesting tidbit. Where I want to be involved in cannabis is mostly Florida and Nevada. And I do like this opportunity here in Arizona as well. So yeah, that's a little update on the cannabis industry. I know from the first episode, that's an industry that I'm very involved in. And then, the gaming industry too. I mean, or I mean, what else have you been seeing out there? I mean, any current events? We could talk about Coinbase as well. That was a big IPO, but anything that you've been seeing at all, like on the gaming side, or we can just kind of talk about crypto too.
Yeah, no, the kind of the big one on the gaming side that we kind of just glossed over was, I mean, I think the Roblox IPO was, it's got to be a
Yeah,
couple
we didn't
months
even
or a
talk
month
about
ago, a couple
that.
months ago. Um, but that's kind of one of the things of the trends that I didn't know. I didn't fully get your opinion on it, or I didn't know if you
Oh,
were,
yeah, I'm
do
not
you see
involved in
it kind of,
Roblox.
it's kind of one of those Minecraft, like digital world kind of things. Do you think
Absolutely.
with the rise in crypto and the NFT arts
Ooh.
and all that other stuff, do you think those two worlds kind of integrate and
Oh,
somehow become more sustainable?
yes. Absolutely. I mean, the reason why I kind of understand NFTs is because I'm a gamer myself. And I mean, gaming is in and of itself like the things that you achieve and like the item and the gear and the gun camos, they are NFTs
Yeah.
at the end of the day, right? So, absolutely. I mean, Roblox has a, a lot of potential here to really start to monetize itself more into crypto and into, digital tokens. I think the interesting thing about a company like Roblox is their ecosystem and the currency that they already employ, Robux. Um, and that in and of itself is almost like a digital currency that kind of holds its own value. Um, what interests me a lot about Roblox, the valuation is steep, 41 billion, but it's not crazy.
Yeah.
And I absolutely really like this company. But the one thing I like about it is the player base and how young it is. I mean, that's one point that I made
That
in
was my big question. Is like, do you think it's sustainable with how young the community is, or do you think it's just another fad for those young people? Like, do you think
um
this gets thrown out in the next couple of years, or is it this more of like a 5-10 year play
that
that's
is
actually?
a really, God, that's such a good point, because I actually know a gaming investor that I follow, um that when Roblox kind of did their listing, they actually, and I bought more Activision Blizzard around 90. And I think it was funny when on my first episode I said, I mean, I would love if Activision Blizzard came into 90. Remember I told you? And it was like a 94, and it came in and it was like a wall there. I mean, there was a wall of buying an ATVI right at the 90 handle. And then now I think we're at 97 back again. But I mean, look, a lot at 97.35. So I mean, look at the chart. I mean, a wall of money came in around that 89.90 level, myself included. I followed through with that and I said, hey, if Activision comes back in the 90, I want to be a buyer here. With the Roblox IPO, man, I mean, look at the player base and the average age of Roblox users. In 5 years, a lot of these gamers are going to be transitioning into titles that Activision Blizzard creates: Call of Duty, um, World of Warcraft, Overwatch, really the main three here. So I think that's a really good point that you make. If the player base is so young, and obviously young people have to get older, and then as people get older, consumer preferences obviously change, right? Can you envision 28-year-olds playing Roblox with kind of how the animations are and how the characters move and what the game really is? I mean, maybe, right? There's nothing wrong with childish games. I know a lot of people like Fall Guys, and God, what's that one game on a spaceship where like you have to find out the imposter? What is that game called?
Oh,
I
it's with
can't.
the people have it on their apps and their phones and stuff
Yeah,
too.
so like older
Among
people play
Us.
that. Yeah, Among Us. And so like
Yeah.
older, there's that kid, obviously more of a younger crowd. But I mean, so that's kind of a really intricate way to look at Roblox and kind of be scared about it, is if, man, in 5 to 6 years, is the player base still going to kind of stick around here? I think so. I think they're going to be okay at $41 billion. A lot of what I believe is Roblox kind of priced in here. I don't like the fact that young kids are going to have to start going back to school too.
That's also a big one. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I saw another investor talk about is, hey, if you're buying Roblox here, you might be um you might be a little late. That doesn't mean that this stock can't work out for you over the next 3 to 5 years, which I think it will. If you bought Roblox today, I think you're going to be just fine. It's just I think 2021 is going to be a harder year for Roblox, given that their player base is actually going to have to go back to middle school and high school again. And they're not going to be able to just sit around and half-ass their schoolwork along with playing video games. like, and you can say that for adults too. Like people that work at home half-ass work and play video games as well.
All
But
the
I think,
time.
I think older people though can kind of free up their time better to game, and that's where Activision Blizzard with the Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, and Overwatch 2 coming makes more sense. And the reason why I like Activision Blizzard so much is because that is really the pure play on esports right now. If you look at their titles and how heavy their titles are in esports, I mean, Overwatch is like strictly an esports,
Yeah,
video
it's
game,
not
right?
a casual game to watch either.
Exactly.
It's just not.
Exactly. So Overwatch 2 coming later this year. Really excited about that. And like there's the notion, I think I brought it up, like, are the video game publishers going to have that great of a 2021 now that people actually want to go out again? And I think they're going to do okay, but they're not going to be as good as 2020, because 2020 was the best year ever for video games because we were just sitting at home and it's the best form of entertainment for consumers. But I like the fact that maybe later this year, we're going to be able to have live esports events again. Because that was the one thing the gaming industry was missing during COVID was live esports events. And these events are social, right?
Yeah, they're
I
coming
mean,
back
these are, I mean,
too.
they're and in Asia, they're already back.
Hmm.
Right. I mean, we've all seen the packed esports arenas in Asia, and then we're kind of looking at our country like, yeah, why can't we have fun like that again? But I think COD finals probably is going to be live later this year. I think there's going to be a lot of Overwatch tournaments live later this year, man, and that's great. It just goes to prove kind of like my initial point on the first episode I was here, that gaming is very social and collaborative. The pimple face teenage guy sitting in his basement, right? That's not really the gaming industry anymore, right? This is like actual professionals and people are consuming
Yeah,
these games,
it's
and
very
they're
evident at like the numbers of, like you said, we both were big into Call of Duty, things like that. But there's a game that I grew up on playing, which was Counter Strike, and I don't play the game anymore. But I'm a huge fan of watching the game still.
wow,
Which may sound crazy
and
to a
that's
lot of
what's
people.
crazy. Yeah, no, and that's a
Again,
lot of
on
people too.
Sunday when there was a tournament, and that's an online tournament. The finals, there was a peak on one platform had on Twitch had 210,000 people watching it. Not to mention
Oh,
there's another 160,000 watching on YouTube Live. So I mean, like the numbers are there. The
and then
advertisers are
compare
there as
that, and
well.
then and then compare that to people watching CBS on a Wednesday or Thursday night, and it's not a live sport. Like CBS and NBC have these joke of like sitcoms and shows, and like there's probably like a couple thousand people watching that as just background noise. And it just goes to prove, man, I think gaming is the new entertainment industry. I mean, just what you saw there with Counter-Strike is just one
Yeah.
game and this huge ecosystem, and you have over 300,000 people watching, and that gets more views than a mid-major college football game.
Which is insane, man. Like it's
I
not
it's
not
like,
to bag on some of these sports, but like even I love hockey. I'm a big hockey fan, but
oh
just like
yeah.
the worldwide, like the viewership is just not there.
And maybe, I mean, I would love to see like actual numbers to compare, but I mean, what are we talking, maybe 10, 20, 30,000, I know like big time like SEC games on CBS get like multi-millions, for
Let me
obvious
try and look
reasons.
up
But
a one look at average viewers of college football games. I mean again, the numbers gonna be kind of top heavy as well. Like with the data that there's 90 million viewers like for the entire season. So,
that's not a lot.
like
Honestly,
yeah, like when you break it
when you think
down to
about there's
that, like
12 weeks, like, and how many different games, just 12 weeks, how many different games? I mean, 300,000 plus for just one tournament in CSGO. I mean, geez, you put that over a 12-week period. I mean, wow. And
and
that's for
this
one game.
it's crazy too. Like these are they're getting almost 100,000 viewers. They're streaming games almost every day. So these are almost 100,000 viewers a day that are
And
just
to
tuning
that
in to watch
point,
this.
the company that I want to go public, and I think they're going to at some point, is Valve, the studio that creates Counter-Strike. They are still private, and I think they're looking for the best deal. It's going to be a big SPAC that they merge into, but that's the one I'm looking for because they own Steam,
Yeah.
which people probably have heard of Steam, but if you don't, that's the platform that you kind of download many of the games that you play on a PC on. So not only do they own that, but they're also a gaming studio too. And wow, I mean, what a fantastic company. But that's one that I kind of have my eye on. Roblox was interesting. But yeah, when it comes to gaming, I like Activision Blizzard and Corsair. Those are kind
Okay,
of
so
my
you're
two.
you're on more of the transitional play of like Roblox was good for its time, it had its turn, but you're putting your money into something that's more of into the. I mean, you're not gonna be a kid forever. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, and I think Roblox is fine. I think Roblox at a $41 billion valuation and Take-Two Interactive at a $19 billion valuation. Take-Two Interactive owns Rockstar Games, the company that
Hmm.
makes GTA. And man, I like
Which
Take-Two
is the
here.
largest grossing game of all time for one
Yes,
title.
I like Take-Two. So I own Activision, Take-Two, and Corsair. Those are my three gaming positions. I own a little bit of Turtle Beach as well. Um, at much lower prices, I'm still holding on to that position. I wouldn't necessarily be a buyer of Turtle Beach, maybe here, you know what I mean? But I do still like the company. It's very small, but Take-Two and Activision are really my two favorite names here. Because GTA, the new title, is coming, I believe, late this year, maybe early 2022. And again, that's just a game that's just very social, man. It's very social, very collaborative. Um, I really like the opportunity with Take-Two as well. I would rather Take-Two and Activision over Roblox here. I don't think Roblox is necessarily a bad investment though. I still like with the levers that they can pull, like you said, with crypto and NFTs. Um, and look, maybe post COVID, we do kind of have this little baby boom, but obviously, so like the runway for the next 10 years maybe doesn't look that bad for Roblox, right? From a demographic point of view, because you do need more kind of younger individuals consuming this game. It's very tailored
Yeah,
to that.
that's kind
Yeah,
of that's again that's I don't know.
kind of
That's
just like
I
an
kind of
intricate like gaming, you know. I mean, kind of if you look at it really deep, right? But I mean,
so
any
what's
any
the there was another big I don't know the exact studio or if they're even public which was the one of obviously the all-time greats in the video game space, which was Halo.
uh-huh
They're set to release a new battle royale format, which was the big
and Halo
driver, which
Infinite,
was
right? In the
yeah.
new
So when
title.
that
Yeah,
one
so a little bit about Halo Infinite. It was supposed to come out last year in the fall, but because of COVID, they completely botched it. They weren't able to get it. So yeah, Halo is looking to do a battle royale mode. And they're trying to launch this game later this fall. And it's developed by 343 Industries. Microsoft owns 343 Industries. So Microsoft is a decent way to also get some gaming exposure. It's obviously not a pure play. Um, Microsoft is of the large tech companies, Microsoft is my favorite. I have never been critical about Microsoft on this podcast. I've been critical about Facebook, Apple, and Amazon, but notice I've never been critical about Microsoft. Um, I call it Misfit. MSFT is the ticker, but I've never been that critical about Misfit. I think it's a really good company here. Um, I like it a lot
why is
more.
that? Because you've been like you said, you've been very
Yeah,
outspoken
yeah.
against a lot of these
Because
bigger tech companies.
from a legislative perspective, Microsoft really doesn't have any headwinds, right? They're not bad actors. You know, they do everything kind of clean, and I just think that they have also more gaming exposure than the other big tech companies. I think the one thing that Apple and Facebook has Oculus, and I think that's fine. But VR, whatever. But
We're
the
not
one
there
thing that,
yet.
yeah, I mean,
We're just
Apple. I think
not.
the biggest mistake Apple made is just they have no gaming. Really, they have no gaming exposure. And you can say, oh, you know, they make a little bit of revenue on apps getting downloaded, but I mean, I'm looking for direct plays here. Um, And companies like Facebook and Amazon, I mean, geez, man, with Amazon, you have, I mean, I'm a kind of a purpose-driven investor. I like to invest in companies that are kind of doing good things for society as well. I think, um, and Amazon is pretty much the polar opposite of that. I mean, the stories of drivers having to piss in bottles because they don't have enough time to actually deliver packages is actually true. So yeah, I don't really want to be involved in a company that kind of just does that. Um, and at the same time, I think the best days for Amazon.com, the e-commerce platform, are behind them. I think new players like Etsy, Target.com, BestBuy.com are actually kind of stepping on Amazon.com's toes here, and I think that's going to become really prevalent over the next 2 years. There's a notion that like Amazon.com is like the only e-commerce company. Um, I think people are going to soon find out that there's a lot of other websites that people are ordering stuff on here. And like Amazon.com had a really good 2020 because people were sitting at home. Well, how about when people aren't sitting at home? Let's see what the growth numbers are there. So,
Yeah, let's see what
yeah,
their prime
exactly.
numbers do then.
Now, exactly. So, and Amazon's a fine company, $1.7 trillion valuation. I said it on the first episode I was on. If they didn't own Twitch, the stock would be a lot lower. It was the best acquisition. The reason why a lot of these tech companies are getting the valuations they're getting are because of acquisitions. Facebook is where it's at because of their acquisition of Instagram. Google is at where it's at because of their acquisition of YouTube. Amazon, in my opinion, because of their acquisition of Twitch. So they are very savvy in that regard. How many more acquisitions do they have? I don't know. Right? Microsoft's going for Discord. That's probably the smartest thing. And Discord is like a $10 billion valuation. That seems really cheap to me. I think Discord should be worth a lot more than WhatsApp because people actually pay the monthly subscription on Discord. The what's that mode? Nitro mode.
No, so yeah, there's
Dude,
a
yeah,
premium.
people, yeah, but with you get more emojis and you get the GIF as a picture. I've been looking for Discord to go public, and that would be great. But I think Microsoft wants to acquire Discord. I just think Microsoft has runway to make acquisitions from an antitrust perspective too. They just acquired Nuance Communications, and that's going to go through just fine. They're not going to allow Facebook or Amazon to make any more acquisitions here. And that was really the one way that they were creating shareholder value was by making acquisitions. And if they're not allowed to do the one thing that's been having them create shareholder value, well, then their core businesses are going to have to start performing better. And I am more bearish on Amazon.com, the e-commerce platform, than much other people are. I don't think this company is at the forefront of innovation anymore. 6 years ago, Amazon.com was like the best e-commerce site. I don't know if you could say that anymore, to be completely
Yeah, but
honest,
do you
man.
think they've kind of pivoted at this point? They're the
Yeah,
largest when it comes to
AWS,
the AWS. Yeah,
AWS is great, but even then, man, I mean, there's a lot of innovation, in the software space too. And we could kind of talk about that. I mean, dude, the reason why I kind of like some of these boring companies and like a company I haven't really talked about is like stocks like Caterpillar and John Deere, like these tractor makers. How many like new startups do you see of like tractor makers? I mean, like
yeah.
none.
It's
Right. I mean, like,
you
because
just don't.
nobody, no, and so like you kind of look at like companies like John Deere, Caterpillar, even like UPS, United Parcel Service is a company that I love. It's don't look now, but Big Brown's about to print $180. You know, holy smokes, here we go. You can make money investing in some boring ass shit, everyone. Right. 180 Big Brown's at United UPS. So, um, I don't see many startups, getting into kind of the businesses that guys are already in. But if you look at like the software space, I mean, holy shit! Like, I mean,
Good luck.
this is a ruthless industry with just a lot of names, and and man, just if you look at like the executive turnover for Amazon too, I mean, holy crap. I mean, how many like former Amazon executives do you see like on a lot of these startups? Like, oh, I was a former senior management Amazon, and look at the executive turnover and senior management turnover at Amazon. It's pretty eye opening. I I'm a believer that you don't make money piling into the top 5 holdings of the S&P 500. You really don't. And that's why I don't really like indexing. I want an index. There's probably something out there that is reverse market cap weighted S&P 500. I want to invest more money in the companies that are least allocated. That's my thought process personally. But I'm super contrarian. So, and that kind of hasn't worked out for me in the past a little bit, but I think it's worked out for me pretty well. I like to invest in kind of segments of the market that kind of are a little bit overlooked. Like I still think Activision Blizzard is like so severely overlooked. Like no one really talks about it. And I'm just like, how the hell? Like, oh my God, this is a
Well, that's
company with
something
like,
we touched on in the last episode too, of just like in passing, we kind of talked about how the S&P is so top heavy. Like
oh
there's a
my
ton
God,
of
it's
other good companies
gross.
that are being
Yeah.
overlooked by the FANG. Like it's just there's
Oh, it's
so many
so
other ones.
gross. Yeah, it's so grossly um overweighted to like the top 7 to 8 names. It's just
Yeah, there's
that's
just
why
so many other ways to put your money in there too.
I'm a big small cap guy. I love small mid cap companies. It's just I feel like a company that's worth $2 billion, they could just make one pivot and they could create two additional $1 billion of shareholder value, and that's a 100% return. Bang. If you're investing in Amazon here at a $1.7 trillion valuation, what could they do to create 1.7 additional trillion dollars of shareholder value that would get you a 100% return? I would rather take a bet on the $2 billion company creating only $2 billion more gets you that 100% return. And that's kind of the venture capital private equity mindset. You don't see venture capitalists piling into the top 5 holdings of the S&P 500, Emmett.
Not at all.
Exactly,
It's
because
not
they
happening
were in those companies 15 years ago.
when it wasn't good to
Yeah,
be
so when
there.
it was smaller, exactly. So that's kind of my thought process. Activision Blizzard at a $75 billion valuation today. I easily think that they could get to 150, $200 billion value. I could see that so easily. I mean, Activision Blizzard, a $200 billion company in this market, that doesn't seem too crazy over the next 10 years, in my opinion, honestly, with as big as esports is getting. It doesn't seem crazy. And they also have this kind of like this NFT thing going too. I think the gaming industry can kind of monetize a little bit too here. So I still really do like gaming, man. What else do you want to talk about here? Those
Where do
are
you kind of
really,
see that one going to? Like, I mean, we talked about NFTs a little bit in the last episode, but where do you see
mm-hmm.
these gaming companies? Where do you see them kind of really taking a step towards making these kind of? I know there's in CS:GO, for example, there's the skin markets. So like if
Oh
you
my God, that's
purchase
crazy. Yeah.
a one of your weapon skins, so like the one that's recently sold for the most was the is what the M4A4 skin. It's called the Howl, and it's on the quote unquote contraband list. So it's a banned skin from Valve,
Oh
but it's
my
still on
gosh.
there.
Oh,
And it recently sold to an investor in China for almost $400,000 for one skin in your.
exactly. One skin, everyone. And it's awesome that people are getting into this stuff because like gaming was like the OG NFT, I mean, like,
And that's
God,
what you can
because
see. Like you
gaming
can,
is
it's
it's an experience, right? This is like a legit, I mean, a video game in and of itself is kind of an NFT. Like when you think about it, you have your character,
yeah.
your profile, you accumulate like experience, and like this is all kind of digitally stored and remembered on their servers. It's not necessarily on the blockchain, but right, it's on their servers, which you hope are secure. But
Well, my kind
God,
of thing is
man.
where it's like, when is it going to be? When are people going to kind of realize that there's big money in this, and it's not just like video games anymore? Like there's
People are realizing it. I think the financials really need to start getting there. For Activision Blizzard, trades at about 8 times sales, but the margins, oh my God, if you just see the margins of this business, they just need to start booking more. Activision needs more growth of sales. And I think they can get that from starting to monetize into the token market more. they're just really right now, they're just kind of very traditional in their shop. Like they just exchange dollars for like, so if like World of Warcraft, you can buy like mounts and pets and shit, and like this shit goes for big money. But they don't have an open market yet, like a free market yet for some of these things, which is kind of tough. They regulate it too much. um I don't know, man. I think they need to release a free market for some of this stuff more, but that's where I could see it going.
I
And
think
then
that's
there's like
that's
the
another
whole
big
like,
one too.
yeah. And I see here, did you want to talk about A-Rod acquiring the Timberwolves here?
I was going to bring that up during your kind of, I wouldn't call it a rant about Amazon, but it's the same thing. Like Amazon was, people think Amazon's the only online seller. Um, with Alex Rodriguez partnering with Mark Lore to
Who's
buy the
Mark Lore?
Timberwolves.
Let me see who
Mark
this
Lore
guy
was
is.
the
CEO
CEO
of
of
Gentleman. Yeah.
e-commerce at Walmart. So
Gotcha.
there's he grew that thing to a
Yep.
massive giant as well. So like people are, like you said, like Walmart is a big player in the space
Oh,
now, and it's not just
Walmart.com,
Amazon.
Target.com, BestBuy.com. I mean, Etsy.com, right? I could just, I mean, there's just to your point, right? There's a lot more out there than Amazon.com now.
Like you
But
said,
yeah, keep going. Yeah.
people like that are the ones who are, like you said, they're jumping ship now out of these e-commerce brands and getting
Uh-huh.
into something else. But it's what's the valuation of that was for, I don't know if the Timberwolves are worth $1.5 billion.
Look, so
I don't
this
know if
is
the
a bet,
Minnesota
Emmett.
market.
No, Emmett. So this is a bet on sports gambling here. This isn't a bet on the Timberwolves, right? I mean, when you think about this, I don't.
That's
I,
true. More of
this
a
this is
long-term play there.
this is
Yeah.
a long-term derivative play, if you will, of the sports betting industry as a whole. And this was probably the cheapest way to get in on that in a direct way. Um, I have not talked about sports betting yet, and I was very early on this too. Sports betting is also an industry that I'm very involved in. Um, MGM is a great way to play this. I've owned DraftKings in the past. I actually was very early on DraftKings. I actually sold it because I didn't like the financials, though. I like a company called Flutter Entertainment out of the UK. They own
Flutter
FanDuel.
Entertainment.
They own
Ah,
FanDuel.
there it
That's
is.
my position. And it's a 5 letter ticker. It trades OTC, so it's not as liquid. But I like MGM and PDYPY. It's called, the ticker is PDYPY, and it's ugly ticker because the company used to be called Patty Power. What a dog shit name of a company. It
What?
sounds like a Powder Puff Girl fucking
Yeah.
name. So they changed it to Flutter Entertainment, which is
Oh
not
man.
great still, but it's getting better. Flutter is like a top 25 holding in the UK FTSE. So this is a very well-known company over in the UK across the pond. In America, not really, but people don't know that. People are like, who owns FanDuel? Man, it's Flutter. And FanDuel is doing very well here in America on the East Coast, as well as in Colorado. I don't know if people know this, but in Colorado, sports betting is fully legal.
That's big. I did not know that
Colorado,
one either. This is
dude,
huge. Yeah.
Colorado, Tennessee is online, Emmett.
Yeah.
Michigan is online. Virginia is online. New Jersey was a big one. That was online. Nevada isn't just the only one now. Sports gambling is being legalized at a faster rate than in states than cannabis right now. I don't really know why, but whatever. Like in Tennessee, they legalized sports betting, but not cannabis. I mean, whatever. I mean, they're gonna get the cannabis one done, but like you know what I mean, right? Colorado is the best state because they have both. They just give people freedom. Hey, if you want to bet on a game and consume cannabis, go for it, man. What a
Do
great
what you
place.
want to do, man.
Exactly. So, um, this is a derivative on sports betting, man, that essentially the sports gambling industry is going to just get bigger and bigger and bigger as it is. And therefore these teams are just the valuations are just going to increase because there's going to be a time, just like with people are betting on cryptocurrency and other things, where these industries start to get monetized more. Like there may be a time in 10 to 15 years where the Timberwolves have sports betting kiosks in their stadium. That's already the case in Chicago with the Cubs. There's like a mini
Yeah.
DraftKings sports book in Wrigley right now. And, in the UK, with the big time soccer games there, like there's sports betting kiosks and shit
They're
there
everywhere.
already. So exactly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the play here, is that these organizations are going to actually start to be able to monetize the sports betting industry a lot better and partner with DraftKings and FanDuel and BetMGM and kind of brands like that, man.
Yeah, also
This
it
is
cornerstones that partnership with that the NBA has on those the NFTs, the NBA Top Shots. It cements them of getting recurring revenue from sales of
Dude,
those
that's
as
crazy
well.
too. Yeah. Like, so the NBA is kind of doing a good job of getting ahead of the curve, you know, and I think if you're like a big investor like A-Rod and Lore, man,
Yeah.
it makes a lot of sense here because it's probably a pretty good valuation. What do you say, $1.5 billion?
Yeah, that's what
That's
they
not
have
bad.
the
That's not
sale.
bad, in my
It's
opinion, though.
very cheap for
Yeah, that's not bad, man.
in a national branded company.
I
I
mean, they're
mean,
14
sports
and
teams are
42, but so they're horrible, right? They're an absolute dog shit team this year, I guess.
yeah.
Like, holy shit. They can't even win a game, but that's fine. Because who cares? People are gonna bet on them anyways, or bet against them anyways. Overs, unders. It doesn't
And
matter. Like that's the
they'll
thing with
probably
the
do what they'll go out and get another big name guy within the next couple of years here. That's just what these
yeah,
small teams do.
that's why companies like CBS and Comcast are just so stupid because they'll air the big time SEC games and NFL games, but they have absolutely like no plan or any sort of motivation to monetize the sports betting industry at all whatsoever into their programming. That's why they're idiots and they're going to the wayside. At least ESPN and Disney are trying.
I was gonna say a company I criticize a lot, which is ESPN and like the Disney company, like
We
the
haven't
things that
talked
they
about
do
Disney. Mm-hmm.
for um for sports betting is
A lot better.
it's crazy. They have a dedicated channel to it
Mm-hmm.
on most of their weeknights, and
Mm-hmm.
then during big games they have a rolling screen of all games going
Mm-hmm.
on with the overs, unders, there's even prop bets you can see on there for certain ones, depending on the site that's linked to it. Like you said, DraftKings is a big sponsor, so they put up a decent amount of branding on there, but it shows the prop bets they have on DraftKings, so people can go directly on there. And like you said, Disney is doing well and really
Exactly.
kind of taking
Just
advantage of the sports
they're
betting landscape.
so much more ahead of CBS and Comcast, right? And little do people know, but Disney owns about 6% of DraftKings right now. People don't know that. I didn't know that until last year. They actually announced it in the middle of last year. Is that, hey, we actually own 6% of this company. Like the public stock, like Disney has a venture capital arm, and they made a venture investment in DraftKings, I think back in like 2015. So that's been monetized for them and has been helping out their balance
Huge.
sheet too. Um, so yeah, I think there's certain ways that these companies are trying to monetize it. Man, sports betting is so big, dude. Oh my gosh. I mean, this
Yeah, we can.
industry
That'd be
is.
a huge again. There's a lot of numbers on that. The industry's huge. We can do some more
I think,
research and
yeah.
do a whole
So an
episode on that. To
actionable
be
an
honest with you.
actionable idea for everyone listening is MGM. I talked about MGM on the first episode as a big play on Vegas, but BetMGM um, is their essentially their phone app that they can take their sports book, um, and it does very well. I think it has the number one market share in New Jersey, and it does very well in Michigan because of the MGM Detroit location, that the MGM brand
Yeah,
Detroit location there. Um, BetMGM is doing a really good job, and I think that is the value play, in my opinion. And I love the hybrid model where people around the country can bet on BetMGM, earn tier credits, earn points, and then go to Vegas and be able to kind of enjoy also the MGM branded casinos and resorts, along with being a client with BetMGM with their sports wagering. So that's kind of an actionable idea I still like here. I still like MGM here a lot at 40. I think at the 40 handle here. like what I was talking about the first episode, it was like a 36, 37.
Still, again, another affordable one that still has a ton of room to grow.
I know. Yeah. I like MGM here a lot still. Yeah. Sports betting is, that's another industry I didn't talk about either. Any other industries out there kind of
No, again,
early
we can.
stage? Like,
That's
what
that's
about
kind of the
this?
bigger one that I'd love to dive into more on another episode when we have a little more of the.
Sports betting is really interesting because there's not a lot of players. It's like one of those industries. It's like, God damn, like I'm like, there's like 4 to 5 players on this. You have
Yeah, that's
DraftKings, FanDuel, MGM, and like Caesars has their own online. So I'm like, there's like, you're telling me there's only like 4 different apps here? And I'm like, God damn, that's a lot better than Charles Schwab, TD Ameritrade. Well, Charles Schwab owns, but E-Trade, Trade Zero, Robinhood, Wells Fargo, Merrill Lynch. You have all these, and I'm just looking at it. And even like with crypto, you have Binance, Coinbase, BlockFi, all these other, there's like you can go on and on to all these other crypto exchanges and platforms. There's like what, like at least 20 of them, right? How many e-brokers are there for stocks? Fucking a ton. And then you look at sports betting and there's like 3, and you're just like, oh my God. And then the barriers to entry for sports betting, Emmett, very high.
unbelievable.
Yeah. And then the barriers to entry to, open like your own
It's
stock
yeah,
trading app. It's like, it seems like the easiest shit ever because there's fucking like over 100 of them.
it's similar to cannabis. There's
There's,
government
yes, there's,
regulation that just stands in the way of what's can really
so it's
what
hard.
can
So it's
happen.
hard. Exactly. So it's hard for people to kind of get in, which is kind of nice. That's why that's why I like cannabis and sports betting, is because you have some of the government regulation in the way, which kind of sucks in the short term. But like, man, like if you've looked at it over the last 5 years, it's allowed for these companies that are kind of growing within the regulation to really reemerge as leaders once this thing kind of
Yeah,
gets
let's
let
say
out,
the
let go.
long-term play on these companies, like once these companies make it out of the BS and everything that they've had to go through, they're miles ahead of what new companies or these new startups that try to take their market share away.
Yeah. What do you think about this Coinbase listing?
This, the valuation that we had before, I believe I sent it in was much lower than it initially, or they were targeting 250 a share at a
Yeah,
65 billion
referenced.
dollar market
Yeah.
cap.
Mm-hmm.
What they finish up with? They
They're at
opened at
333.
381 a
Mm-hmm.
share, and then nearly $100 billion market cap. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, a
It's
hundred
big.
billion
It's
dollars.
big. Yeah. For just one exchange, right? And there's more, right? There's Binance and there's BlockFi and there's a lot of other ones. I think the one thing with the Coinbase business model is one thing I could talk, dude, these commissions for crypto trading are so fucking high. I
That's
mean,
the one thing no one
2%.
talks about either. Is that
Dude, no one talks
the,
about this. So I've only told one of my friends this, but I own Bitcoin through PayPal. I bought it back in December, and I did it for one reason, because when PayPal introduced Bitcoin, they did free trading for a month. And I don't tell people about this because it's such a small position for me, and I don't like jockeying around small positions. I just think it's fucking complete eyewash, you know? So it's like, oh, like, yeah, I'm up so high, but it's like, God, it's like a couple $100. So like, what the hell?
yeah.
Like, like I'm not gonna jockey around it, and shit. But so like, I don't really, but I did it because it's free trading, because I wanted to get into crypto, but I was always like, dude, like, why the fuck are these commissions so high? And so like, that's what I like about the Coinbase business model, I guess, is the fucking commissions are so high and they make a killing on people.
That's
Like,
where it's at. Like they're slaughtering the people that are,
dude, like
but
we're
it's
talking
okay
like,
because it's crypto and it's
it's
decentralized
like,
and
what
it's
is it,
good
up to
for.
two? It's up to like 2% commissions per transaction.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes like fucking the chop shops in the 90s, like Wolf of Wall Street, look fucking good, dude. Like, I'm
Dude,
not even joking.
they
Like,
made it
the,
this is my initial problem with most of the crypto industry is that they're making it seem like they're better than the industries and everything that came before it when they're doing the same thing.
and then like the commissions to like make a transaction are kind of high, right? To actually like pay in crypto, isn't that fucking high as shit too?
It's
It's
similar
like the
to
fees.
other credit card fees where you pay like a 3% whatever here and there fee for Amex or whatever you want to call it.
But like at least with
Um,
like the credit card fees, you don't see those like explicitly. Like they're
no.
like, like I think with like the transacting crypto, it's like an explicit fee, right? Where it's like this is the transaction value, and like we're gonna bang you like 2% on it. I don't know, but that's what I've heard. That it's just the costs of transacting crypto and even buying and selling it are just so fucking high right now. That's why it's always kind of not attracted me too much. But when I got the email from PayPal that they were allowing free trading in crypto for the month of December only, I was like, oh, like hell yeah, like finally, like.
Yeah.
And then they stopped it. And then now if I go to PayPal, like the commissions are super high. And you know how I like to invest? Like I kind of like to build positions over time.
Yeah,
So doesn't really, it did. That's why crypto hasn't made a lot of sense to me in that regard. Because like, if I'm just going to be honest with everyone on the podcast, I'm not doing $10,000 orders here. Like, like, I mean, right. Like we're not, I don't have that much money to just be sloshing around 15 grand per trade. I don't want to put that
exactly.
much, I don't want to put that much risk on right away in general. So paying a 2% fee, which I'm kind of foolish to care about a 2% fee if Bitcoin's up like fucking 600% or whatever over the last 6 months. But that's kind of one of the things that's kept me away. I guess I'm kind of a fool for avoiding a big position in it because being scared of commission costs but that's kind of just the cost of just transacting in crypto. um has always like, because I've been interested in this stuff for years now, but that's why I always just like, man, these commissions are super high. And then I
Well, yeah,
go
not
to
even the commission fees. It's more of like we talked about too. Is like I think with Bitcoin, it's like if you're not in it, you missed it. You're not
that too. Yeah,
you
exactly. Like, what am I gonna buy up here at 62,000 and pay a two
yeah. Like
percent
what are we
fee?
doing here?
Yeah, like that's tough, man. Like that's tough, right? So but I look at the Coinbase business model, and if people are like comfortable with paying 2% fees, I mean, this looks like a pretty fucking good business because there's companies out there like Charles Schwab that are publicly traded that do free trading, and they don't make literally any money on transaction fees anymore. It's just essentially other sorts of like, it's just pretty much net income margin, which is taking customer cash balances and investing it in bonds, treasuries, and that's the spread
Yeah,
that they make. Like that's the only way. That's like Wells Fargo, Bank of America. That's how they all make their money is taking your cash that's sitting in a checking account and just buying treasuries with it.
it's
But then like,
again, those were bigger parts of the business back in the day, where these transaction fees
exactly, like
from trades, and they
that's where
got
like dude, that's such that's where like um those companies, right, they are losing out on the revenue stream that they had years ago. Is the same thing going to happen to Coinbase? Is there going to be a race to zero commission wise like there was with stock trading? Who knows? Like, I don't know what that really looks like, but I
I'm
mean,
sure at a certain point it will. In the next, I would say less than. I would say in the next year there'll probably be some people are gonna start to realize the fees that they're paying on these things and get it together.
how can
But
they not real? Like, how come no one
yeah,
talks about that? Like the fees ever? I don't know. We're like the first people I've ever heard. Just like, hey, like there's like like, because I wish it was free,
yeah.
but it isn't. And even if I had to pay a little bit, it's fine. I get it. But like, goddamn, like 1.52%. Like, God, shit.
Like you said, the PayPal is at 3%, so it's like
Was it really? I don't
it's yeah.
know.
Now it's 2 to 3% now.
So yeah, I bought Bitcoin at around 16, 17,000 PayPal for free. And again, this is such a small position, and I don't want to sell it because I don't want to do the headaches with taxes and shit either. So I don't really know what the hell I'm gonna do with it. I'm just like, God, I'm kind of regretting even doing it because I'm just like, dude, it's so stupid.
Like it's more of a headache now.
Yeah, now it's just like, God damn it. Like, I mean, I'm glad, like, oh yeah, I made a little bit of money, but it's just like, Jesus Christ, what do I do?
You're
Like,
like,
I
what
don't
the
know. My
hell?
accountant's gonna be like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like, like, yeah, that's the thing. It's just like, but they had free trading, so I'm like, okay, I'll get a little bit involved here for free. And like, it was the amount of money where like, if I lose everything, if the shit goes to zero, it'll be fine. But then
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
yeah, but it's just like, God damn, man, why are the transaction fees so high?
Yeah.
I
So
don't
again,
know.
I think just to close on the Coinbase thing, it's not. I don't understand the valuation of. I don't understand. Like the business model is basically the fees that they're taking
Mhm.
from these transactions. So once those fees go away, where does that leave the company? It
I guess
can't be
there's a
$100 billion
notion.
valuation at this point.
Yeah, there's a notion that they maybe want to pivot to being a bank, and maybe they'll start accepting direct deposits. And but then even then, like then they're going to have to actually get chartered by the FDIC, and then where does
Good
that go with
luck.
regulation? And just like I don't know, like how has the government allowed this shit to get this big?
I just don't. It's I don't know with this with companies like this. I don't know how it gets to this point of where government regulation hasn't stepped in
I know.
to like it's
Like
just a
it's
little bit
crazy.
ridiculous in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And I personally think this gives, Coinbase going public on the Nasdaq gives the government a lot more freedom to actually come in here and do some things. Like, and whether that's positive or negative for crypto, I don't know. I'm assuming it'll be negative because this is an industry that's lived off of, DeFi and decentralization. And I mean, who knows? Now
Yeah,
it's been legitimized to the point where this company is getting a huge valuation here.
I think it's been put off for so long by the government, but then now, like you said, it's starting, like if it's going to be on the Nasdaq and it's starting to make its rounds here, it's kind of being shoved in the government's face of like, hey,
I know.
do something
Like,
about this.
I mean, like, it's just crazy. The government officials, and then when they get asked, they just dodge the question. Like they don't even care. Like they just find one of their political, ways to dodge questions, which they're really good and they're trained at.
They'd
Um,
rather just talk about
uh,
antitrust of Facebook.
oh yeah,
They
they're like, oh, they're good. They just deflect the question every fucking time. It's just like I hate the Jerome Powell get asked about cryptocurrency and Janet Yellen's like, oh, it's not efficient stores of value. Next question. It's just like, dude, like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, it's obviously pretty efficient. Like, if you have this many people that are involved in it, you have fucking companies that are going public on the fucking Nasdaq at 100 billion, and then they just, oh, it's not an efficient store of value. Like, dude, like, it's not. They know what's going on. They just don't want to talk about it because I think they're really embarrassed because these are the people that are supposed to be governing us in the US dollar, and they've just completely failed at it. So I
I
mean,
think
what are
it's
they
like
going
you
to
said,
do
it's either
now?
they're embarrassed and they can't really walk it back yet, or they
Exactly.
know something that we don't, and something
Yeah,
else bigger is coming. But then
Fed
again,
coin,
it's like,
right? I think
yeah,
they're going to create Fed coin, and it's going to be denominated to the US dollar. And I mean, who knows what goes on with the price with that? But then, even then, what would be the purpose of even doing that? Like a Fed coin? I don't think there's really even a reason to. Then you're
yeah.
just like, because then there's like this thing with crypto, it's like making coins just for the fuck of it, like sort of thing. It's just like, dude, like, like it's just like, oh, like we'll tokenize that. It's like it makes sense because there's like this thing like, could like season tickets for like let's say a baseball team be tokenized? Of course it could be. Like you own a
Yeah,
token and it
exactly.
provides you season tickets, or you can just like buy a season ticket package. Like, was there anything really that wrong with that to begin with? Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I guess like you
problem?
said.
Like, what problem is like tokenizing a season ticket package solving? Like, was the season ticket package traditionally like that big of an issue? Like,
That's also where I'm kind of was thinking the same thing. I never heard anyone say that, but like, what problem is all of this solving by tokenizing
exactly.
everything? Like, what problem is this solving for us on our daily lives?
It, it,
It's
it
just not.
almost yeah, it may or may not. It really depends on preferences at the end of the day. Like, so there's like the notion that every subscription based model could be tokenized, which makes sense. I mean, I don't think there was that big of an issue of having a login and password, but I don't know. You know what I mean? Maybe there's like a
Yeah,
centralized blockchain where I could have like my Netflix token and my Amazon Prime token, and this actually is my subscription. Essentially, I don't know. Like, and are we gonna go there? Maybe, maybe not. But is it solving like a huge issue? It doesn't seem like that right now. I think with Bitcoin, really the main driver of it is limited supply denominated in a currency that is just being hemorrhaged, which is the
yeah.
US dollar. At the end of the day, it is BTC to USD, and the denominator of that USD the supply is just getting, obviously it's just increasing. And then with Bitcoin, you have limited, and it's in many ways, Bitcoin is almost a digital Ponzi scheme. You have a lot of people believing that it's a store of value, and that's all you need, because at the end of the day, the US dollar is a Ponzi scheme as well. You have a lot of people saying that this thing has value. So, everything at the end of the day is kind of a Ponzi scheme when you really think about it. Life, maybe it's just an entire
It's
Ponzi
just a
scheme.
giant Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, everything. And then, you could really, there's Ponzi schemes out there that are pretty apparent, but then there's like deeper ones, but like,
Dude,
yeah.
I'll add this to for next week's pod, but this is going to be I have a few other topics that I like to jump on and talk about next week. This would be awesome to continue this on.
Yeah. Anything else here? I see. Or do you want to leave it to
no,
next week?
we'll wrap this up here, and then we'll kind of we'll taper that off into next week and the week after. We got plenty of good stuff we talked about today.
Yeah,
But again,
man.
I'll wrap it up in another intro and outro for everyone on the pod here.
For sure.
Again,
Dude.
Jamie Bell, thank you so much for coming on. It's always a pleasure to get your insight on a lot of these things. Do you want to kind of quickly recap some of the actionable things that you had on there?
Yeah,
even though this is only
recap.
for entertainment purposes only, and this is
I
seek
know
financial advice.
Sometimes we can get super long form, and I probably was like blabbering on a little bit there. So if you've stuck around, I appreciate it. I just wanted to kind of revisit and re-emphasize my position on cannabis and gaming, because I did kind of really go into that in the first episode. And then provide some actionable ideas, like, because a lot of other podcasts and investing shows out there can kind of tell you certain shit, like, hey, you should look at this sector, but they won't tell you, like, hey man, like, these are actually some investment opportunities here that you can really kind of sink your teeth into. So the gaming, cannabis, and sports betting industries, man, really take a look at these things. I still think they're really under the radar, and they're a lot more interesting than these big tech companies, man. You can go out and you could buy Apple, Facebook, Amazon. Good for you, right? Those are really stable companies. They're really good financially. But personally, for me, man, I want a little bit more. I want to think a little bit more against the grain.
Yeah. Again, you can also come in with a lot less money and make more of a return on that stuff too.
Exactly.
You'll see your money go a long way.
Exactly, man.
Invest with more of the smaller growth companies instead of just buying into Facebook. Where's that going to go, man? Amazon, where's that going to go? Apple, where's it going to go? Like, what's your $100 really going to get you at that point?
Exactly. Like those were all great buys 5-6 years ago. Really, man, skate to where the puck's going. I know it's a super cliche thing to always say, but man, really look at the industries that have runway, especially if you're young out there, dude. What industries and what opportunities have runway? And is crypto one of them? Sure. Yeah. I think we went over transaction costs, but I think, and even that's fine. And you like you like digital art and things like that, man. That has a lot of runway. And I would much rather you be involved with digital art than like some of these big tech companies. To be completely honest, man, I just think there's more runway in some of these emerging industries. I could sit here and tell you to buy the S&P 500, everyone, but I'm not going to.
Yeah,
I'm just not.
You're not going to find that here on this podcast. It's just not.
And if you do that, that's totally fine. I think I think the S&P 500 ETF is a lot better than cash, but I think you can hold a core position in the S&P 500 if that makes you feel comfortable. But I really just want people to start taking more risks, man.
If you're young, dude, take the risk. That's
exactly
is what it is.
Yep.
All right, man. Well, again, thank you for recapping. We'll wrap this episode up here. And again, thanks to everyone for listening. Really appreciate all the support. Jamie and I have been going back and forth and looking at better ways to kind of make the podcast better and what we can do to offer you guys more value on the side of just the podcast. So keep hitting us up on Instagram, Twitter, wherever you guys can find us. Give us your feedback. We'd love to hear it. Subscribe everywhere you can and tell us to your friends. We'd love to have them on as well. Any other final thoughts, Jamie?
That's all. We'll get together next week and we can expand on some things or go over some new topics. But I appreciate everyone tuning in again.
Awesome, man. So, all right, everyone. This has been Outside the Lines. Happy investing, everyone.
See ya.
All right, guys. Thank you so much again for sticking around with us for that long. If you're still here, really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to record with my boy, Jamie Bell. It's unparalleled, man. This guy's got so much good information. We got a ton of ideas to put out tons more content for you guys. So be patient with us. We've got a lot of good things coming for you guys. Don't want to spoil anything, but check your inbox. We've got some good things that are going to be coming your way. We got lots of good calls coming here. We know not everyone's long in the market, so we've got a ton of good short information coming up. So again, it's always a pleasure. Thank you guys so much for sticking with us, all the downloads, all the love. It's been awesome to kind of get out here, get our feet wet in the podcast game. We can't thank you guys enough, man. So thank you again. This is long-winded, but thank you so much, guys. We really appreciate all the support. And we're back next week with another banger of an episode, guys. Take it easy, guys. Happy investing, and we'll see you next time.